Hi, this is Dr. Kwan, and this is a concept review for time value of money and discounted cash flows. In this video, I'm going to run through the basic valuation concepts. Basic valuation generally involve future value, present value, future value for annuity, and present value for annuity. It is very important to note this particular table. In this table, you will find four major formulas that are frequently used in valuation. The first formula is the future value equals to present value times 1 plus r power of n. In this case, r referring to interest rates and n is number of periods. So if you were to rearrange this particular formula, you shall see that we can find present value by looking at future value times 1 over 1 plus r power of n. So this first two formula is for future value and present value, and similarly for third and fourth formula, you'll find that it's also looking for future value and present value. But do note that the third and fourth equation is very different from the first two because the third and fourth is only reserved for annuity. Besides the four basic formula, it's very important to note that there's another option to calculate future value and present value in this case. So you can probably try another option called financial tables. So just refer to the related financial tables to get more information about the interest factor. So as you can see here, you can see things like FVIF, PVIF, FVIFA, PVIFA. This IF actually stands for interest factor. So where are they? So if you were to refer to the formula, you can probably see this particular portion is what we call the FVIF, future value interest factor. While this portion here is the PVIF, and this particular portion here is the FVIFA, future value interest factor for annuity, and this particular portion is referring to PVIFA. So if you were to combine this formula, then it's very easy to tell that another way of writing FV would be PV times FVIF. Then PV would be equals to FV times PVIF, so on and so forth. So it's not that difficult to remember. So basically, if you want something to do with future value, then of course refer to the table which is related to future value. So same goes to here. So if you want to know about present value, so go to the table which is related to present value. Like for instance, if let's say you want to find future value for annuity, then look for the interest factor for annuity. Another very important note is to identify what is the cash flow patterns. It's very important for you to know what are the different types of cash flow patterns involved in valuation. A typical one will be things like single amount, annuity, mixed stream, or perpetuity. For annuity, there are two types. It's either ordinary annuity or annuity due. Before we proceed further, it is very important to understand what a timeline is. You will find timeline especially useful in valuation or time value of money problem. So a typical timeline would have something like this. So maybe a 5-year timeline. So normally we'll have a time is 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, for example. So a typical timeline will actually show you how the cash flows is either in or out, how much is that, and how long is the duration, and also what is the interest rate or required return. So a typical indicator for cash outflow can be indicated maybe by a simple arrow pointing down or negative sign. Like for instance, maybe certain amount here. Okay, So if you see something like this, you know that at time 0, there's certain amount going out. So how about going in? If let's say cash in, it can be easily indicated by arrow pointing up, okay, or a positive figure over here. And it's very useful to also jot down what is the R, the percentage of interest rates or required return. So if let's say you have all this figure, a simple valuation can be actually take place. If let's say you can just see one cash out, one cash in, this is what we call single amount. Apart from just one cash in or one cash out, sometimes you will see multiple cash flows in a timeline. So go back to the same example that we had. So maybe for a duration of 5 years, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So maybe instead of just one out and one in like a single amount, sometimes you will see something like this. So at each period of time, you will have some, in this case, maybe cash inflows, like for instance, 100, 100, 100, so on and so forth. So in this case, 5 times. So this is what we call annuity. And if let's say you find that, so there are 2 types of annuity. So sometimes you will see something like this. Okay, so maybe we have okay, in this case we will have something like this. Also 5 times, 100 here, 100, 100 for 5 periods. So this is also what we call annuity. So how do you know it's annuity? Annuity has to fulfill these 2 criteria. It must be equal payment and within specified period of time. So in this case, the time period is known, which is 5 years, maybe 5 months or weeks, 5 periods. Okay, so what is the difference between these 2? You will find that the first one actually starts over here, but the second one starts here. So the main keyword here, you'll notice that this is actually starting at the end of certain period, and this one starts right at the beginning. There's a name for it. The one that you can see on top is what we call the ordinary annuity, and the one at the bottom is the annuity due. Well, sometimes you will find something very similar to annuity. So maybe, for instance, we can have, again, we have 5 years period, 5. So also instead of just one cash inflow, like for instance, we have multiple inflows. Again, maybe 100, 100, 100 for 5 times on each period. But in this case, spot the difference. How about if let's say it's until infinity? So it's not within 5 periods, but it's until undefined period of time. Although it looks very similar to annuity, but in this case, this pattern is not considered annuity anymore. It is called perpetuity. So slightly different from annuity, but similarly they have equal payment, but it doesn't fulfill the second criteria of annuity. It has undefined period of time, in this case infinity. Let's take a look at another example of cash flow patterns. Well, just assume that the timeline is again 5 periods, 3, 4, and 5. So instead of having like single amount, one out and one in, again, very similar to annuity, we have multiple cash flows. So mean to say we can expect some cash flows happening on each of the periods. In this case, maybe in each period, we will have something like maybe 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So if you notice, right, in this case, is this annuity? It looks maybe like annuity, but actually obviously it's not. Okay, first, it does not fulfill the criteria of having equal payment, right? Although it's fulfill the second criteria, which is the cash flow happen within specified period of time, but it does not fulfill the first criteria, which is equal amount. So if you notice in this case, each of the period has different amount of cash flows, and this is what we call mixed stream. And mixed stream is the very common types of cash flows for valuation. Here's the highlight of time value of money concept. It's very important for you to know how to identify different cash flow patterns by now. So there are 4 different cash flow patterns. Please make sure that you know how to draw a timeline and recognize each one of them, like single amount, annuity, so 2 types of annuity, ordinary annuity or annuity due, mixed stream, and perpetuity. Another main takeaway from this particular chapter is that you have to know very well in and out the basic formula for the time value of money on future value calculation and present value. So there are different options. So you can either use the basic formula like here, or you can use the formula using the financial table by referring at the entrance factor. So there could be many more variations. So sometimes the question may be asking about looking for R interest rates or looking for number of periods. But do not worry, because most of them, as long as you know these 4 major formulas, getting the answers for R or N will not be any problem. Basically, it's just different formation of the equation. So the main takeaway is just make sure that you know these 4 should be sufficient. Another thing is that to avoid any confusion, because there are 2 future value formulas, right, and 2 present value formulas. To avoid any confusion, just remember to not ever touch the 3rd and 4th unless it is necessary. Just remember that the 3rd and 4th is reserved mainly for annuity. So if you find that the timeline or the cash flows that you are dealing with is not annuity, then straight away you know that you don't have to rely on 3rd and 4th, just stick to 1st and 2nd formula. Apart from cash flow patterns and basic formula, make sure that you go and have a look at valuation of perpetuity. So valuation of perpetuity may not be available in this particular formula, but it's not that difficult. Perpetuity is very similar to annuity. Like for instance, in order to find the present value for annuity, basically you just need to find PMT times 1 over R. So apart from that, it's very important to know what is EAR. EAR stands for effective annual rate. And time value of money also have some other application problems like loan amortization or different cases involving not only future value or present value. So just make sure that you know all of this. I'm pretty sure you will be able to understand the time value of money concept. So that's the end of concept review for time value of money and discounted cash flows valuation. Thank you for watching and happy learning.